But go ahead. Sorry, you were saying I say things to get aggregated. Go ahead.
That's correct. So, but you were often actually very thoughtful, and I wanted
Yeah.
to get your thoughtful take on Tua Tagovailoa now that Ian Rappaport said that he is not considering retirement. What was your reaction to that this morning?
Well, I didn't think he'd retire. I so I want to say this on the front end. I think he 100% should be allowed to play. I think the idea that like the league should step in, I think is ludicrous. That's not how that's not how I feel. I feel like I'm totally fine with the league and teams stepping in the moment. Like, hey man, you don't have your wits about you. You know what I mean? You can't go back into this football game. But once he has all of his wits about him, even if you take Tua out of it, use another player. If somebody said to a football player, "Hey, you have a liver condition where if you get hit in a certain way, you can die on the spot," and the guy was like, "Okay, I'll sign the waiver." Even if I would hope they wouldn't do that if that were my brother or whomever, I do think they should have the right. So I think it should be his choice. My opinion on it is that I think I do not, and it's a tragic circumstance. I don't think Tua's body is made for professional football. And I'm just going to give two analogous situations, one real and one theoretical. The real one is this. I had a friend growing up who, from the time he was a little boy, just wanted to be an Air Force fighter pilot. And just like and I'm sure you as well, there are, usually a few people who at a very young age say what they want to do, and people around him are like, oh, they're going to do that. They're already working towards it. He did that. He was going to apply to the Air Force. He was studying planes, did all these things. And this poor guy never stopped growing. And he ended up graduating high school 6'6", and at the time, too tall. Like there was a minimum and maximum to fit in a fighter pilot cockpit. And there was literally, he had done everything right through no fault of his own. He couldn't pursue his specific dream. The other analogous situation I would use is this, because I think some people say football's dangerous for everyone. Yeah, but it's more dangerous for certain people. And if you were a race car driver and all of a sudden got diagnosed with, I looked it up, it's called syncope. I might have mispronounced it, but it's a condition where you spontaneously pass out, maybe a couple, 3 times a year. It's specifically dangerous. That makes that specifically dangerous for you, even though it's dangerous for everyone. That's how I feel about Tua. These are not brutal hits, and these are also not what I would consider minor concussions. They are regular hits that lead to horrifying, instantly diagnosable from your couch concussions. So he should be allowed to do what he wants, but, and I say this I try not to be callous at all. If he plays, we're going to be having, I fear, we're going to have this discussion again. Like it's not like if he plays, there's going to be another time where we all take on somber tomes about him and his career because he dealt with that again. I don't think he can play professional football and avoid that type of hit because that was not a big hit. And he, suffered another concussion. So that's a long answer. I don't even know if it's an answer, by the way, but that's my thoughts on it.
No, and those are totally valid, interesting thoughts, and it makes a lot of sense. I guess of course, most of us want the best for Tua. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy. People don't want to see him in a wheelchair or have all types of health issues down the road. But I also thought it was really weird that so many former players immediately said retire, including Antonio Pierce. I mean, how would they feel if the outside world told them when they had to retire? Didn't you think it was a bit hypocritical, that whole outcry on Thursday and Friday?
Well, I think we have a epidemic of people crafting opinions and thoughts based on what they think. Like Levitard used to call it Captain Easy stance, but I think it's more than that. I think it's what is the general sentiment going to be, and let me make sure I'm stated on the record on the same side of it. And I think it's that was my reaction. I think there's a lot of people, man. I again, I want to be I want to be very judicious with my words here. And there's no comp for what we do in the danger of, you know what I mean? But to make a fake example, if someone had told me a year after I got the TV show, hey man, you got this crazy condition where talking too much, you can die. And you're probably not going to, but you could, and it drastically raises the odds that you die way younger than you should. So you should quit your job. I'm pretty sure I'd have been like, please don't tell my wife, and I'm going to roll the dice. Like, I've worked too hard, and I'm not like, and again, I'm not proud of that statement. That's probably, I'm a father. Like, that is not how I'm supposed to feel, but I'm pretty sure that's what I would have done. Like, you know what I mean? That if you remember, this is maybe a little more analogous. Chris Bosh got diagnosed with blood clots, and doctors wouldn't clear him to play on the blood thinners he needed. And he fought and fought to be cleared. Like, no, let me play. I'll sign the way. Like, I just don't think I think most people, if they work as hard as you have to work to get to the pinnacle, get there, they're not going to give it up as a preventative measure, especially early in their careers. I think that's totally normal. I also think it's, reasonable for other people who don't have as much skin in the game to be like, well, the smart thing to do is this, but that's usually not how people operate. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I would have been shocked if Tua was like, I'm retiring.
I think I would have too, but it bothered me that all of these former athletes, that you have to rip their careers from their cold, dead hands. They're going to try out for the UFL or the Arena League before they actually retire, are going to tell a guy that's 26 years old, no, you got to step away. He loves the game. He's in the prime of his career. He just signed a $200 million contract and has a coach that tells him every day, we love you. You're the guy.
Let me ask you, can I ask you a question about that?
Of course.
So here's an interesting piece of it. That's like one we can't know. How many of those people would have been telling him to walk away if he hadn't signed the deal? How much of it was, hey man, you got that $100 million no matter what? If the Dolphins had been like, we're not signing you, would there has been as loud of because I felt like even my tweet included his money. I feel like part of it was buddy, you can kind of have it all. Not at all, but you're like, you're going to get your money no matter what. And if he hadn't signed his deal, I think there would have been a lot fewer people that were like, you've got to quit. But because he just signed it and it was, 93 million guaranteed and maybe 167 guaranteed, depending on how you look at it. I think that was, do you think that was a piece of it? Because I do. That colored it.
It might have, but I think you alluded to something. When you don't have skin in the game, it's a lot easier to tell somebody what to do. And for Damian Woody and Antonio Pierce and all of these guys that were sitting in a broadcast room or standing at a podium that already had their lives after football figured out, they can tell a guy, hey, man, just step away. But if they were 26 years old, there's no way they would have wanted somebody to tell them, you've got to walk away from your dream. All those guys played into their mid-30s, and my guess is had to be told, you're not wanted around here anymore. And they would have called every team out of the 32 and played third string for the worst team in the 100%. NFL to keep the dream going. And here they were taking national stances and saying, no, you got to walk away. It's sad if you keep going. I mean, that to me, I don't know. I found it distasteful.
I also thought, not that that's the point, I thought Pierce could get fined by the league for that. I don't know how the NFL's tampering rules work and stuff, but I know typically speaking about future plans of a player on another team is frowned upon. You know what I mean? Maybe in this instance it's different because it seemed like, his heart was in the right place, so to speak. But that was another weird one. It's like, you're the head coach of the Raiders. Like, again, I want to be clear. I do not think this is why he said this. But it is in the Raiders' interest if the Dolphins quarterback retires. And so it was just a weird thing all around.
It was weird. And I do want to also give the context that I believe everybody was speaking with the best interests of Tua. So it is not like they were being selfish in doing so.
I don't think so either.
With bad intention. I just thought that it was kind of tone deaf because they would have hated for somebody else to say in the prime of their careers, you need to step away. I know what's best for you. If they weren't friends, they weren't confidants, they weren't family.